think you already know the fastest guns in COD Mobile? Some popular choices aren't even close, and some slower guns hide insane speed mechanics. We're going over 5 categories of speed, and we'll show you which ones are the absolute fastest. First up, the fastest fire rate. We could have mentioned the machine pistol, but it's a secondary, so we'll set it aside for now and focus on the primaries that can truly dominate. Let's talk LMGs. The MG42 is legendary for its insanely fast fire rate, with a fire rate at 1034 RPM with a typical gunsmith build, and you could even push that a little faster. That fast fire rate means more hits, obviously. And for LMGs, which often have a strong bullet impact, that means more flinch for the enemy. But that's not even the most important thing. The real advantage often described with a fast firing gun is this. Missing shots is alright since the delay between 2 shots is so short. For an LMG, that translates to being able to effectively pre-fire through a smoke or a wall, especially if you've got FMJ. You're hitting more easily simply because you're firing more often. That also means when you're pre-firing a corner, you're way more likely to hit your shots compared to, say, a PKM, which fires almost twice as slowly. You'll control that space. Now, for SMGs, it's a different conversation when it comes to dominating with speed. The Fennec, which was the fastest firing weapon at some point with its 1111 RPM, and the MAC-10, now the fastest firing SMG with a crazy 1200 RPM, shares some key advantages thanks to that fire rate. First thing, obviously, since you fire so fast, hipfire feels a lot more accurate, and these two, in addition, have a decent hipfire spread. Secondly, in close range, we go against people doing quite a lot of movement, so we're more inclined to be missing shots. Having a faster fire rate is always helpful here. In general, we like to use 800 RPM as the bottom line for a good fire rate for close range, so obviously, having more than that's great, but firing quickly doesn't make you particularly good in close range if you don't have good mobility to go along with that. All of that RPM is wasted if you can't snap onto your target. And the most common thing that makes us feel quick, the stat that truly unlocks that aggressive potential, is ADS speed. This is how fast you aim down sights, and it's what makes your rapid fire truly deadly. The guns that master this are next. When it comes to raw ADS speed, there's nothing that touches the PPSH-41 with the right gunsmith build. We're talking an insane 142 millisecond ADS time. To put that in perspective, that's faster than the fire interval of a slow firing weapon like the Odin. Honestly, I don't know any primary that beats it. You see an enemy, you ADS, and you're firing before they even realize you're a threat. But the PPSH isn't the only one. Another weapon with a really good crazy fast ADS time is the MX-9 at a really fast 250 milliseconds. It's only a hair slower than the PPSH. Then you've got the trusty QQ9 10mm mag. While not as fast, sitting at 206 milliseconds, it's still incredibly fast and a popular choice for a reason. So, what do these superb ADS times unlock? They make these guns crazy good for the run and gun playstyle. Basically, you run, and only when you see someone, you ADS. It might be the most brain-dead playstyle, but with weapons this fast to aim, it flat out works. Pure reflex wins gunfights. But obviously, if you're not doing all that with lightning ADS but still sprinting at a snail's pace, say 5 meters per second, it's not super efficient, right? That ability to quickly close distances or slide aggressively into fights, that comes down to your weapon's sprint speed. For example, with the Tech 9, you're running at 6.85 meters per second. That kind of speed lets you pull off those sick zigzags and be a real pain to hit. The Lapa, with a specific gunsmith build, can also match that 6.85 meters per second sprint speed. But the true GOAT for this specific category, that's the CX-9 Burst, pushing over 7.01 meters per second. Now, what does this high sprint speed actually mean for your gameplay? It's huge. Even if your ADS time isn't the absolute fastest on a particular gun, your weapon's sprint speed directly influences the distance and the speed of your slide. So, for that aggressive run and gun playstyle where you're constantly sliding before engaging in gunfights, higher sprint speed means you'll be moving insanely fast and become incredibly hard to hit. You're essentially weaponizing your movement before the gunfight even starts. And here's a pro tip that leverages this. Something you need to know, especially if you're a sniper. When switching from one gun to another, like your primary to your melee, the sprint speed doesn't change instantly. It changes gradually. That's why switching to your sniper from a melee, then immediately sliding, is so useful. Your slide's initial speed and distance will be based on the melee stats, often around 7.24 meters per second, rather than your sniper's much slower sprint speed, usually around 5.5 to 5.9 meters per second. The result? You'll be fairly quicker and much harder to track during that crucial slide peak. Master this, and you'll feel the difference. So you're sprinting fast, You're sliding into engagements like a pro. Fantastic. But what happens when you finally ADS? If, like with some snipers, you ADS and suddenly you become an easy target, no matter how quick your reflex is. That's why strafe speed, your movement while aiming down sights, is a massive factor for aggressive play and for flex players who need to adapt to anything. We could mention the Peacekeeper here just to troll you, because with its 4.03 meters per second of strafe, it doesn't really stand a chance against the best. PDW is already a good example of effective strafing with a fast 4.43 meters per second. But we can do even better. The undisputed kings in this category, the MAC-10 and the MX-9. With their respective 4.96 and 4.95 meters per second strafe speeds, it is pretty much impossible to hit someone consistently who is mastering their movement with these SMGs. To counter that, you'd probably need one of those two weapons yourself, a gun with a crazy fast fire to get lucky, or a great hip-firing weapon. Otherwise, tracking a target zipping around at that speed is a nightmare. But beyond the obvious fast strafe makes enemies miss, there's another huge perk that comes with this kind of mobility, the ADS walk. This is exactly what it sounds like. You're always moving, even while fully ADS'd. This isn't new. This technique goes way back to the QQ9 fast strafe meta of 2021. We saw it dominate again when guns with really good strafe speed became meta, like the MX-9, the MAC-10, the PDW, and even the Switchblade at some point, though it was a tad slower at 4.1 meters per second when people used it this way. Now, here's why this ADS walk is absolutely important, especially if you play S&D. When you're not sprinting, your dead silence perk is active. That means you make no sound. Think about that. You're moving, aimed, and ready to fire, all while being completely silent. Even though many videos on aggressive techniques describe it as just run and good luck, true aggression often involves incredible stealth. We've covered a lot about how to be fast with your regular guns. But what about those moments when you need that one-shot precision at range, yet still want to play aggressively? That's a whole different ballgame, and it's where aggressive snipers come in. Now, for aggressive sniping, it's basically about how fast you can get that first shot off, and additionally, how quickly you can fire again if needed. We're deliberately leaving out guns like the AR-50 here because, let's be honest, it's almost an unfair competition in raw speed. We're focusing on more traditional snipers and marksman rifles that reward skill. First up, the Outlaw. This thing has an insane 292 milliseconds ADS speed and also has crazy mobility stats. We're talking 6.2 meters per second sprint speed. That means you often don't even need to do the knife switch trick for slides because you're already moving that fast. Big plus. However, the biggest issue with the Outlaw is its limiting hitbox. To guarantee a one-shot, you need to hit the chest or arms between 15 and 37 meters, which is where most of your sniper fights happen. Under 15 meters, you get a one-shot to the stomach, which is nice. But over 37 meters, you need a chest or upper arm shot, and those are often covered by the forearms, making it not ideal, obviously. So, if you love that fast ADS speed but need a more forgiving hitbox, the MK2 Marksman Rifle is definitely a good idea. You get an even faster ADS time at 237 milliseconds, and a similar fire to the Outlaw, but you do sacrifice some mobility. The big advantage with the MK2 and all Marksman Rifles really is that you're often using an iron sight. This gives you a much larger field of view at all times, making those unexpected close range fights significantly easier to handle than with a typical sniper optic. But if you're looking for a typical bolt action sniper that works crazy good for an aggressive playstyle, there's honestly nothing better than the Koshka. Now hold on, when I said an aggressive sniper needs to be able to shoot fast, I didn't just mean having the lowest ADS time stat. The Koshka, compared to the Outlaw or MK2, looks slower on paper with its 354 millisecond ADS time. But here's the secret sauce. With snipers, the longer you aim up to a point, the more accurate your shot becomes. Technically, during your ADS animation, your hipfire build spread area shrinks until you're 100% accurate when fully ADS. With a Koshka, that spread becomes almost non-existent at around 200 milliseconds of aiming. This basically makes the ADS time stat irrelevant because you can accurately fire after just 200 milliseconds of aiming, faster than the actual fully scoped ADS time of the Outlaw. One more huge benefit, because you can shoot accurately earlier in the animation, you've zoomed in for less time and at a slower pace than with something like an Outlaw. This makes adjusting your shot for quick peeks or flicks much easier. And now you might be wondering, what are the best aggressive guns in COD Mobile? You can check out the guns right here.